morning to everybody. I am Alessandra Venturini, the holder of the Jean Monnet Chair in European Migration Study. I'm very glad to open the fourth lecture of the third series of the seminar Cocumint, Consumption of Cultural Goods as Driver of Migrant Integration. This year, the seminar has a special focus. We inquire into the inclusion of foreign artists, and we select the contemporary art field because it is one where the linguistic difference play a smaller role, while cultural differences remain. We also inquire into the role of curator, director of museum, art galleries, press, and to understand how open they are to the attention of the public, or how determined they are in opening the artist field to new issue and new policy issue. With this lecture, however, we want to go back into the main field of inclusion of migrant by art and consumption, and the acculturation process, which increase foreign ability to understand and participate in the world in which they live. We were very happy and glad that Eleftherios Giovanni accepted our invitation. Professor Giovanni is an economist. He studied in Greece at the University of Thessaloniki, but he got his PhD at the Royal Harlow University of London. He also was in Italy, in Verona, and in many Italian cities for the Marie Curie research. He was professor at Adman University in 2017, senior lecturer in economics in Manchester University for 3 years at least, and he is currently professor at Izmir PLK University. He has done many other things, but just to make it short, to leave him the floor, I limit this presentation. Eleftherios, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much again, Professor Alessandra, for the invitation. I will go a bit, the target is to not go into many technical details. I will just summarize some findings of a couple of papers, investigating different things. And as the title says, it's consumption of cultural goods. So the point is, we focus, let's say, on the demand side and the behavior of migrants. And of course, there are missing parts from research. I mean, maybe I just started work on this the last 3 years, maybe. So before I was working in environmental or labor or health economics, but then started to find interest on cultural economics. And while I go through, you will see some things that what we find more or less, and what is missing, and what maybe we need to work further, especially with Professor Alessandra. We have some ideas what else we can see, and what is missing actually from literature. As the consumption of cultural goods, for non-economists, whatever we hear, consumption is about the demand side. So even if we talk about migrants, again, migrants is another group of consumers, you can say that. I mean, you buy a ticket, if there's a price, it depends, of course, the supply in the meaning that what is the availability is a fixed program, like it's different. You cannot attend an opera whenever you like or every day, or in a specific time to attend an opera or theatrical play. But it's easier, for example, to attend cinema, because cinema, many countries, in many countries now, they have in the morning, they have maybe 4 or 5 different schedules every day, which you cannot see this in opera. And opera means once a week or just once a year they come in one city. And how we want to analyze here, okay, the consumption depends on the data. You can take like the tickets, and you can see the attendance like that. But what we use, the available data we have, usually we use from surveys, household individual surveys. We trying, let's say, to proxy understand the consumer behavior by checking the participation. So we want to see whether participates or not. Something that's okay, they ask, do you participate in opera? Do you attend a theatrical concert? Pop concert, jazz concert, depends also on the music. And then we see also the frequency. So how often you do this? You do on a weekly basis, you do on a monthly basis, or you do never, or very rare. So this is the thing how we trying to to capture, say, to proxy the consumer behavior. So, why is not moving? Sorry, stuck. I don't know why. Yeah. So the thing is, so what we mean integration, here we need to use the cultural outcomes, the consumption of cultural goods as type of integration. So main studies they used, for instance, economic outcomes, that's a standard. Of course, it makes sense because they want to see if there is wage gap between migrants or natives, and also employment opportunities. And we can say also the type of the job. So if you have a low skilled jobs or a high skilled job, so we go then to labor economics, let's say, and whether the migrants can be a substitute or a complement. So if it's a substitute, which means displace the natives, then you create other, let's say, social problems. So if natives can lose jobs, or whether they can act as how's called complements. But or they use religion or fertility choices. And the one typical also is the language. So if they learn the language, of course, it's a main, I mean, the first step maybe to integrate in the society, you need to learn the language of the host country to find employment and even slowly to have to start participating in other activities. But the thing is, also here I'm citing Perechini and Alessandra and Paredes, is like studies, I mean, few studies they want to see as an outcome process, I mean, as an outcome, the cultural consumption as a part of the integration process, instead of using linguistic or language and employment outcomes. So I mean, something that standard we use, like some variables or let's say some characteristics, I can keep it simple, that can determine or drive or I mean, increase, let's say, or increase the probability or possibility of attending on this cultural or consuming these cultural goods is not so much different from natives. So also migrants, of course, they can have different characteristics. We were saying before we start with Alessandra. It depends on the characteristics of how close is the cultural distance. I mean, how culturally close are ethnic groups. So, for example, I was saying in Germany, they have many Austrians or from Switzerland. They can share much more common things, cultural things, compared, let's say, to Greeks or Turkish or from African or Middle East countries. So the first is, again, the demographic is like the basic demographic. Sometimes they found, for example, that women maybe participate in more highbrow leisure instead of lowbrow. So highbrow is kind of high class, I mean, let's say activities like opera or museums. And I will go back to this from my experience, what I saw some in Italy. And the lowbrow leisure is kind of sports events. So maybe men, they are more likely to attend, especially football. It's very popular. You see more men usually than women on average to see to attend a sports event. So the sports events is kind of lowbrow leisure, and the highbrow leisure is kind of a concert like or visit to museums. Or the age can matters or the marital status. So while I will do it here, one notice what is wrong here, I can assume. So when I was in Italy, I saw even very young people, I mean, from every kind of class. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're middle class or high class or by gender. I saw they were attending a lot of opera and classical concerts. So Verdi, Puccini, Mozart, Tchaikovsky. So it was kind of common. So what I'm saying here, if you do this in England, you would be considered more as a highbrow leisure. I'm saying also for the native, let's say the white British, let's say, because the white British is more common to go like Rolling Stones or U2, Beatles, this type of music. Let's say the pop classical music. I mean, when I say classical, the pop music. But in Italy, what I saw, even very young people, I mean, young generation, I saw they were, I mean, all the 80s actually, they were attending a lot of classical concerts. So I don't see that the integration, what I'm going to highlight here, depends on the country also. So when you want to integrate in Italy, the Italians, they have very common, I mean, it's a common practice to attend on this type of concerts, like, but it's not in Greece or England. Even in Greece, if you go, you will say you are kind of high social class belong if you attend these types of classical music concerts. And the second thing, again, is the human capital. Again, it's a common thing and common, I mean, is for migrants also important because this will include the education attainment. So what we found usually the more educated people like university degree are maybe more likely to integrate, not because they're more educated, but maybe more open and to accept, let's say, the culture of the host country. And health conditions, okay, because this has to do with transportation, especially people with impairments, I mean, physical impairments in a wheelchair, which depends on the supply now. This is my missing part from my studies. I don't see the supply side. So if you don't offer these people an infrastructure and the easy way to attend this, concerts or visit museums, okay, there have been many proofs in European Union, but maybe in other countries, I don't know, maybe they don't have this infrastructure, you will not be able to attend. So it's not that you don't want it because the health conditions prevent you to do this. And for migrants now in specific is the length of residence. I mean, usually the more you stay, because you learn the language, you learn the culture, and of course it's not the only reason, but maybe makes it more likely for the migrants to, let's say, integrate in the culture of the host country, which is the consumption of these cultural goods. The other set, which again is common, besides is the employment status and the income, household or labor income, because it means because not all are public or free. Sometimes maybe you need to pay a price, you need to afford, because I saw something that people of low income, like the natives as well, maybe they're not able to attend this kind of type of events. The social capital has to do with, we call like that, this is a bit how, I mean, if you practice as a person, if you practice in other artistic activities, so maybe you learn an instrument, maybe you write a song, and how long you socialize with friends, and the frequency of communication through social media, because then you have to, social media can help, like Facebook, or especially Facebook, or maybe Instagram, when you see advertisements, so you can promote, let's say, events that before was more difficult. You need pamphlets, you need the paper production, and the internet make easier this, especially young people, when they use social media, you can see these events advertised through those channels. So you have a more, I mean, even YouTube, there are YouTube channels now with any kind of information provided, like from education and other types of events. So you can have immediately access through the social media and through the internet. So what we do is, the one thing is here, we just trying to distinguish by immigrant generations and to see the importance if it's changing the behavior, or who is more likely to consume this cultural good and therefore to integrate in the host country. So the first generation is kind of those who are migrated, or adults, I mean, it's 18 years old and older, and they just migrate in the country. And the second generation is those who both parents are migrants. So he is, let's say, an African, I mean, from Nigeria, he's born in Italy, and his both parents are from Nigeria, but he is born in Italy. So this is the second generation. And the third group I'm considering is the 2.5 generation. So the 2.5 generation, they both these names because one of this is foreign-born parent, but the other is native. So again, maybe we have a Nigerian, his father is Nigerian, his mother is Italian, and he's born in Italy. So this type of generation, we call it 2.5 generation. So again, it's similar with the second generation, just one of the parents is foreign-born, is migrant. And the other thing, the other two groups I don't use because it's difficult to find this information on the service we use, is the 1.5 generation. So it's those who migrated, but they were between 6 and 12 years old. But I mean, it's like first generation you can think about, but it's 1.5 because they are very young. I mean, it's between 6 and 12. And then you have the 1.75, which is the infants, let's say children, 0 to 5 years old, and the 1.25 generation, which is between 13 and 17. And this is why they do this. The 1.75 generation is so close to the second generation. That's why they give this number. It's close to second generation. So it has maybe more similar characteristics with the second generation migrants. Because they're so young when they migrate, maybe it's more likely for them to consume, let's say, those cultural goods, to participate in those cultural activities. Of course, it depends on the characteristics of the parents, depends on the region. I mean, if your ethnic group is dominated mostly, or if you have a really heterogeneous, or you have a variety of different ethnic groups in one region. So this is something that unfortunately I didn't see. I didn't, investigate, because the district maybe matters. So if you have a variety of many different ethnic groups, maybe you have a different behavior in consumption of cultural goods, instead of one dominant group, not only ethnic, but even religion group, can have particular behavior on the cultural participation. So the cultural activities, I'm trying to distinguish between two categories. So I have the passive participation, we call it like that, because in the end you don't create, but you attend. So you attend the classical music performance, theater, and opera, or jazz pop concert. Again, it depends on the music, and whether you visit museums or historical sites, like archaeological sites. And the doing, when you do something, is active participation, we call it, is when you make an art. You practice, you do artistic activities, but it can be individual. So, okay, you can sing, you can play your instrument, or you can actually form a group, let's say a band, jazz band, whatever, and you say something. Maybe you organize like some small concerts, and there's something interaction between, more than one band. Or maybe you can perform in drama or a theatrical play. So it's something that you do actively. And the other is, you can say, it's not cultural necessarily, because I'm doing also social activities, but whatever we saw is whether you participate in a political party, or if you do voluntary work, and or any kind of local community organization, or charities even. So this is something that we'll say active. And the consumption, so what I saw here, come back here. My conclusion is that the first generation, of course, are less likely to participate. That's something expected. But the more years they spend on the host country, the more increase the probability of consuming the cultural goods. And the thing is, if I remember, in the UK, in Germany, I found that the 2.5 generation actually is more actively involved than the natives, the German natives. So I found that what is conclusion, the first generation, they participate less. The second generation is almost very similar behavior with the German natives, or in some cases they participate less in some particular activities, like theatrical play or concerts. And the 2.5 generation, in some cases, I found even they are more active. So, of course, I don't know if because one foreign parent can actually involve on this, maybe maybe drives this behavior, that because there are two actually different ethnic groups, it makes more likely to be more active. But the other interesting thing is also in some cases, also in first generation group, when we do the probability, the possibility is yes or no. So they ask, are you participating on this activity or not? So most likely they don't participate, the first generation. But those who participate actually can be very active. So controlling, let's say, considering these characteristics I said before, the human capital, the economic capital, and the demographics. So the other thing is, this is, as I said, an outcome of integration. This consumption of cultural goods we use as let's say, in the measure how well they integrate in the society. But the problem is, as I said before, so I will go back. The thing is, I don't see the supply side. What I'm seeing is the demand side. The supply side means maybe there's discrimination, maybe they don't feel welcome in this country, the host country. So if you create these, let's say, obstacles or barriers, then maybe the migrants are less likely to be actively part of the host society. And of course, the supply side, as I said, if you provide infrastructure for how you advertise, how you promote these activities, and what is the perception then of migrants when you organize or you promote those events. The other thing is, in the end, okay, we consume cultural goods, you integrate, but the point is why the integrate can be important is the relation with the well-being. So something that I saw in another paper is, okay, we want to to integrate. We want to consume this, but I want to see if there is some relationship or if the cultural consumption makes people better in terms of well-being. And what I saw here, the one part is the objective well-being, which this what we want to see later, if affects actually the economic outcomes or like wages or employment opportunities or the promotion. But what I did, I didn't take the objective well-being measures, but I'm taking the subjective well-being measures with all these problems. There are some issues for this. So we have the happiness, we have life satisfaction, we have different measures of psychological mental well-being, where they measure the depression, stress, anxiety, pessimism. And one other part, I mean, that's suggested well-being measures, you can find more, is the job satisfaction. And you can say the job satisfaction is a part of the life satisfaction. The life satisfaction is something very, is overall. But the thing is, there is some problems here, is the well-being economics, which actually comes from psychology and sociology, especially from psychology. The problem is with the measurement. So I don't want to go into these technical details because it's first of all, it's difficult to measure the life satisfaction and quantitatively, as we say, and it's difficult to compare my life satisfaction with the life satisfaction of another person. So you need kind of equivalence scale or kind of standardization that you can make those measures comparable between different, I mean, between individuals. Because even if you have a twins, maybe even there the well-being can be really different between the twins, among two twins or among the members in the same family. But the thing is, why is important well-being? They found that from psychology or from other labor economics, let's say literature, that the happier you are, more satisfied you are, the mentally stable you are, or the less depressed, the more optimist you have, or more self-esteem. It affects also your labor outcomes, also economic outcomes. You can be more productive, you can be more, I mean, everything, or earn better wages, you can promote better, and also you can make the other people around you maybe live better, let's say, make them happy as well. Because the happiness also can affect the couple's happiness or the partner's happiness. So this is the thing, I mean, we want to see if actually there is a relation between those activities, cultural activities, and whether we can affect the well-being. And the thing is, we find something that the first generation people, if actually you give the opportunity and actually they participate in these activities, they can reduce the difference of well-being between natives and the migrants. So when I say they reduce, let's say the well-being gap, it means what we find usually the first generation immigrants are less satisfied than the natives for different reasons, because maybe for economic difficulties when they migrate, it's a new country, maybe some people are forced to migrate for different reasons, for war or because of either economic migrants, and or maybe there's some conflict in their country, so they have, like Syrians, so they have somehow to escape from the country, so they leave something behind. And that's why we find that the well-being of especially the first generation immigrants is lower than the natives. But the thing is, if you give the choice, I mean, if they actually participate in those activities, and of course depends on the activity, or even sports. So what I'm doing here, especially, except from culture, I'm doing also sports. And the sports is something, is not cultural, I mean, maybe I could say social, because football, for example, is kind of international. It's everybody knows football, even in Italy or France or any other country. So it's a very easy thing to integrate and, let's say, to engage, because you don't need to learn the language. You don't need to learn, because if it's theatrical play, you have to know, I don't know, German, if it's a theatrical German play. If you don't know, you don't understand what's happening. Or if it's something that more high social class, because it has difficulties to pay, let's say, the ticket or to buy the ticket. But the sports event is something very easy. I mean, it's easier for them to participate, and maybe a step to integrate further and consume cultural goods. So, but here I will not say sports is kind of culture. I mean, I'm not sure where to put this, and or it's a kind of low broad participation. And also job satisfaction, if actually they participate in these things, they still, the level of well-being is lower compared to the natives, but there is an improvement. So we compare like migrants that participate and migrants that don't participate. Actually, you can see some difference on the well-being, and it becomes, it's improving when you give, when they actually participate in cultural activities. But the thing is that for the objective well-being is something that we didn't do. This what we're interesting to see maybe how this cultural consumption can drive the economic and labor outcomes like wages or employment opportunities, promotion, even productivity. Some way we can measure this productivity. And the last one is something I just left empty because it's different in every country. Some people migration policies. So migration policy means different criteria. So some countries, for example, Belgium, they give easier citizenship than, let's say, in the United Kingdom. So maybe 3 years you can take the citizenship instead of 6 years in the United Kingdom requires. And there are other requirements. So migration policy, if you need to find a job with a specific income, minimum income you need to earn to get the citizenship or to get the permanent residence. It doesn't mean you become immediately citizen, but at least to get the permanent residence. And the thing is, if actually these migration policies work, in the meaning that you give them a residence permit and you give them an option to find, let's say, a decent job, then maybe they will be more likely to participate and consume these cultural goods, and which further maybe affect their well-being. And why not also the economic well-being? The thing is, so again, what's obstacles? What kind of migration policy here you have? So that's why I left empty, because every country can have a unique, different criteria, different characteristics, different obstacles, or easy, more easier. It will be easier to take the residence permit, or sometimes you never get the permit and you just you are forced to leave the country. And of course, is the let's say the perception of the natives. And that's why I'm saying it depends on the district, the natives, how they perceive the presence of migrants. So maybe you have more migrants or you have more crimes, they will be, let's say, less welcome. And when they feel less welcomed, they will not consume these goods. And the last thing I want to say, since we talk about integration, we have to not use, do not use the word assimilation, because assimilation is something that you lose the culture of your origin. So let's say you're Nigerian, you came to Greece and you forgot your language, you forgot your customs, your traditions, and you actually adopted, let's say, the culture of the host country. So you lost actually your traditions and your customs and of your country of origin. So this is kind, let's say, of assimilation. So you forget the language. So what we see here is mostly a kind of, we want to see the integration, where you are willing, okay, to accept the host country's culture, but without losing your culture. Which, again, I didn't do this one because it's something, I don't know how to measure, or there is no, information on this. And I don't know how to, what index you can say, kind of assimilation index, how much you assimilated or how much you are not assimilated, how much you kept, let's say, the culture of your origin country, whatever is this culture. So thank you. I was mostly of this. There are many things more it's not coming down to, but if you have questions, I can work on this.
Okay, thank you very
There
much.
you go. Thank you.
Very interesting, the presentation, the topic. As you already mentioned, well, one work that we did with Alessandra. Also, it's a pleasure to discuss with you because, well, our research interests are very, very close.
Yeah.
And I have just a couple of questions. The first is related to the first point, the analysis of the immigrants' participation behavior and the effects on the consumption of cultural goods. In your analysis, you focused on Germany and other countries, other European countries, as far as we saw in your articles. Do you think in your variables, in your dimensions that you have put, there is one dimension that we reflected on, but and is also how the country of origin, the origin of the cultural of the immigrants influence their propensity to participate
Yeah,
in
this,
to engage in arts and culture.
yeah,
Uh,
so, yeah,
this is the
perfect.
first question. And secondly, focusing still on using these kind of surveys data, population surveys data on cultural consumption. Based on your experience, well, one critical problem is to disentangle whether these consumptions are of cultural products related to the country
Yeah,
of destination, or
yeah,
if these
exactly.
communities are able to are consuming basically cultural products from
Yeah,
their own culture.
it's a problem. These are to say,
Yes, in
yeah.
this case, I want just a comment from your experience as an applied researcher using this type of data. How do you think this is a challenging, is a constraint, is a problem? So these two questions is for the first
Yeah, the
part of your
first it is
presentation.
because, do you know, thank you, Enrico. The first, for example, I don't have, I have very few racial groups, for example, in the United Kingdom, I have Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, China, and then I have African groups. So even if you gather the Africans, maybe it's not good. I don't know if there's some differences because I don't know the African culture. So you take all the African groups with Caribbean Africans. So you have the black people, let's say, from Caribbean and Africa, which can be different. I don't know. So there is difference. So I found there is difference. I mean, the the Indians, I remember, or Pakistan, they participate less than white. But the white, I don't have for the white people. I have white British, Irish, Scotland, I think, or Wales. No, yeah, and then all the other white people. So you don't know where is these white people. Who is white people in the end? I mean, as you said, it's Australian, which is much closer with the English culture, or American, or it's Italian or Spanish, which is okay. They're not exactly far away, but they're not so close also. So this is the problem in the service. I don't have this. I mean, we have, why they do this? Because they have many Indians, many Pakistanis. It's a big I mean, it's a big proportion of the British society. So they say the white people are not, I mean, how many Spanish you can have? It's not so much the sub. So, and even I don't trust my results. Even I have the Spanish. If I take only the Spanish, maybe I have 10 people, 20. I don't know how I can derive this conclusion. But there is difference. This is a problem. I mean, that's why I say the origin country, where you are coming from, is really important. And also the religion. By the way, I have the religion. So in the UK, have the, I mean, Buddhist. There is not so much difference, but Muslim, there is difference for the Muslim people. And Hindu, you have the Christians, which is closer the culture. Which in Germany I don't have this. In German socioeconomic panel, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember if I have religion. But there I did something distinguished. I saw differences. So I saw, I mean, that's why I think before the Austrians are a bit closer to the German, I mean, culture than Italian or Poland or Greeks or Turkish, because also we have Turkish, what's less likely to be integrated in the German society, even they don't speak the German language. So of course the nation plays a role. It's
Yes,
important.
but you have the fixed effect of cultural distance.
Yeah.
That is the departing point. The interesting will be to see if the longer they stay, if this change. But the problem is it should be interacted with the cultural distance because intrusion in the culture is lower for people that come from very far away, or is lower for, or is faster for people that are subject to specific training.
Yeah.
Integration courses, activity, and so on.
Language courses, like
reduce the distance.
Yeah, because Austrians speak already German, but Italians or Greeks they don't speak. So you have to learn also the language if you want to slow. That's why I say sports events are easier. Everybody can attend football. You don't need the language. You go football, basketball, and you are engaged. But the problem is with the culture goes, yeah, because of the culture distance, as you said. But the thing is, the other thing, yeah, is very interesting. What is the type of consumption good? Is it for the country of origin or the host country, the destination country? So this is, maybe I can ask, I mean, the service, what do they mean with this question? So when I attend an opera, so opera, I think, kind of, usually, can be done in opera in Germany. That's another thing. Maybe translate in German, this is difficult because they take the original operas as it is.
Yes.
The Italian don't translate. I mean, Italian will be in German again in Italian.
But in
Or
the opera, the language counts so much. Even if you don't understand anything, even it is sung in
it was
Italian.
going, so what? Yeah.
You see, you know the story of Verdi and so on. I was in Vienna, I went to see an opera, a Czech opera. You see, I was not understanding anything. As my husband was complaining, I told you, because if you were Verdi, you were understanding what they were singing. No, it's the atmosphere that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, opera is an
not the
absolutely
language.
different. Yeah. Or concerts now is the pop concerts now you have, or jazz concerts. So also the type of concert is not so precise in the service. Or theatrical play. What do you mean theater? Probably theater, I guess, is the host country. I don't think they organize too much. But it's an assumption. It's arbitrary. This is what I'm doing is an assumption. I don't know if it's I'm correct what I'm saying now. But I'm guessing it's the I mean theatrical play, the German theatrical play, kind of in German language. I guess it would be. I don't know.
Did you finish? No,
No,
no.
No, another point that in this case is more related to the
Well-being.
connected to the relationship between cultural participation and well-being that we have cited. That is something also that we have reflected, even if not from the migrant viewpoint.
Yeah.
But in general, I want to ask you. Of course, in your presentation, you were very brief. But can you tell us a bit more when you say, well, the cultural participation, the higher the cultural participation, the higher the well-being? How have you seen this relationship? Because we know, for example, that their cultural participation can be measured in terms of intensity, how many times people engage in activities, frequency, but also in terms of breadth of and variety of cultural consumptions, the idea of the omnivorous, of people that are engaging in more than one cultural activity. So that is a quite different consumer profile from a sociological viewpoint. So we wanted to know whether you have, well, in your opinion, from your works, this higher cultural participation, higher well-being nexus that you have identified, how it is connected. Have you identified some specific cultural activities that are bringing more well-being, or it is more in general broader? Yes.
Yeah. This I don't remember. I think no, there is difference. So they are using the frequency. I don't remember now. I think some activities are more likely to bring the well-being. I mean, closer to the natives. But generally, you can see an improvement in most of them. This is the important. You see improve, but it's different. I mean, the magnitude here is different. But I'm taking the frequency in the end. I mean, just saying how frequent you participate. You're doing this weekly basis, monthly basis, every 3 months, something. I remember, or never, or rare. Rare is a bit abstract. Rare, I guess, once a year, something like that. They consider. But yeah, it depends to, again, in the survey, I mean, country of origin, the country you do, so the generation. So I don't find too much, 2.5 generation, I didn't find changes, I mean, differences between 2.5 generation, the British natives, white natives, whatever, but I found more active in Germany, the 2.5 generation. If I take maybe Italy, maybe it will be different also. So, and also the origin country, it depends. But it's changing, but mostly, yeah, I see the improvement. Especially theatrical play or concerts, especially live performances, this is proving the well-being. But again, you close the gap, it's not enough.
You see, we had two different results in our paper. When we looked at the consumption of cultural good at the national level, with the multiscope survey and so on, we find very large differences in the consumption regarding types of consumption good. For instance, Filipino, they went all to the cinema. To the theater, no Arab, Moroccan, and so on. They don't go to the theater dancing and so on. Why Ukrainian, Romanian, they go. When we did this survey in Torino, and we did this not for the data set that we have a fair group of quite established migrants. This diversity in the consumption was not dominating because, as you know, the diversity, some cultural goods are more accessible. Cinema is more accessible.
It's more accessible.
And so on. So they are able to attract this. So we made two circles, one with the diversity of accessibility of the consumption good and the other by nationality. And in this analysis, in which we have a very special sample, because we take people that are here since 10 years to 15 years. So we have people established in a certain way, not just arrived. The second, so the difference in nationality preferences was less important than in the national one. And for us was important, but we were unable to test if the more they stay, the migrant, the more they shift subject. That's mean Filipinos now they go to the cinema. After they are in Italy by 10 years, they also
go to opera.
the theater.
Theater,
And so, or the Africans, they always go to dancing event. They like to dance. Or if they move, they go also to the cinema. You see, what we discover in this local analysis is, however, that the community is producing the activity which are followed more. So if you want to introduce a new type of consumption good, you should pass to the community. So it should be bottom up, not top down. Even if you don't ask price, you have the 3 days for the museum, that everybody can enter, people don't go.
Yeah, this is also for natives, exactly. I mean, it's not about the price only. Even for natives, maybe they don't go to mass theater, they prefer the cinema. Because cinema is something more attractive. It's American cinema, Hollywood, more popular,
Yes, especially by Korean movies, very popular now.
No, it's Korean, it's very popular for Korea.
Yes, but this is not helping migrants to acculturate in the country's destination, to understand. I have a question, because I was impressed by this displacement issue that you said before, and especially by a conversation that we had in the past with, if you don't consider buildings, art in buildings, but art in space, like a square where there is a monument. These are discussions that we have a lot with Gianmaria Ianni, who is the lawyer who is interested in public spaces. And there are squares where the migrants don't go. If you start, for instance, in here in Torino, we have the Piazza Castello that organize exhibit, concert, and so on. If you open and you try to bring foreigner there, or just if you are things for young and for old, you create a displacement because the other don't feel anymore at ease. Is no more their place. So the problem is that when we always say, as the migrants say, the museum are for whites.
Whites,
I always say not for the whites, for a group of whites. You can be part of this group, which are colored, but it's the group of people that go to the museum. How you, because of course I'm interested in policy, in integration policies. And if there is a square that now has become monopolized by foreigners, the natives don't go anymore. For instance, many in Florence, in Tuscany, but also in La Spezia, there are squares where the lady of the village was going out with the chair, sitting there looking for the children and so on. little by little, the ladies came with the caregiver, and after the places become the place of the caregiver, because the caregiver go there also when the ladies are no more with them. And so there is a displacement of cultural
Yes.
goods,
Yeah.
cultural space. And I don't know, probably this is not so for different cultural product, because you have to pay a ticket, you have to enter in a room and so on. But imagine that you have a museum, let us say the Arab Museum, and it
Yeah.
is full of Arab. I don't know if the
Yeah.
Italian will go. They don't
Yeah.
go anyhow, the Italians,
Yeah.
so this is not a problem. But they will feel at ease. So have you ever thought to anything like this, the risk of displacement? Because migrants till now are a minority. They can be
Yeah.
10% of the population, 20% of the population, the maximum in Germany, in Norway, and so on. But fundamentally, they are a minority. So the minority cannot gain the majority of the affluence and so on. But I imagine that if in a movie, go down, everybody is a Filipino woman, I will feel that it is for them.
Yeah. No, I didn't think about
Did
this,
you
but
ever enter in this subject?
yeah, but how to do? I mean, how to approach it? I mean, uh, this does have to do with the location also, because some districts are more maybe ethnically dominated from one group. So if you put them in one place, kind of, I think they will not integrate also. If you put them in one place, I mean, it's only Polish neighborhood or the only Italian neighborhood. Because this Berlin, for example, Turkish neighborhood, they don't speak even German. They don't need. They communicate only with Turkish because they found a way. A small Istanbul is called in Berlin. So it's not also this kind. It's not. No, it's not what you say exactly, but. I don't know the regions. I mean, districts. I mean, the migration policies have to do something. I mean, to mix them, kind of.
You see, we
It's hard
have
to
this
integrate.
a lot in Italy among Italian migration. People from the south, from Florence, from Naples, are very noisy. They
Yeah, I
speak a
know.
lot Polish, they make a lot of confusion. And in Torino, this irritating people.
I know. I know.
Absolutely. It's like to be in England or in Germany. You shouldn't see, you see, Italy is a large, so they are Italians, but they are supported. So
Yeah.
they
Well,
consider
there's
that.
differences. I know there is difference. Even they say Italy is like Adil Bologna. After that, it's not Italy. They say something. I mean, some
Yes,
people from the
it's
south
very
Italy.
different. And we experience this a lot also with internal migration.
Yeah.
This displacement, no, that a place become for the other. Now, the migrants from the south are completely integrated and are more in problem. They were called by the Fiat, so they were calling a lot of people. And also was difficult to rent an apartment because there was written not for migrant. And now our colleague from Naples was listening, his landlady, Sally, telling him, now you are no more a problem. The other are the problem. So you see, this is, the idea is that different behavior create reaction.
Yeah.
A risk of exclude the other.
So it's about perceptions. This is what I'm saying. So you don't. I mean, you're not close to me culturally, even for Italians. So there's this distance.
The
This
idea
perception.
of the acculturation through cultural art is to make migrants more knowledgeable
Yeah.
of the cultural way of the destination country. And by understanding its culture, being more able to include themselves in the society.
Yeah, because what you said, even for some people from Middle East in Germany, I mean, they provide language courses, but they say also, look here, the women, you should behave in a different way. No, they provide this education because they don't know. So they say you cannot beat them, you cannot put them in the kitchen. So they have different rights here, the women. So you don't have the right to do this. But they didn't know. They were looking, okay. So they don't know this thing. So because they came from a different environment, but it happens. So they provide these courses also from people from these countries.
Yes. I don't know if Roberta has any question. No. Okay.
Thanks. Hi.
That's going.
Also, the student didn't have any
No,
question.
I had a question, but Enrico before did my question. So, because my question was on the different impact between variety and frequencies of cultural activity on well-being.
No, there is yeah, difference.
So, but yes.
But the other thing is, as you said before, Sandra's asked me how often they ask this question. So they record every 2 years, maybe every 3 years. So it's not kind of static, but I have to check if it's changing this. I don't know how much it's changing. I mean, okay, it's every 2 years, but if the frequency is not changing, it's not also dynamic anymore. And like, what I'm saying, like life satisfaction, usually if you get on the average on long term, is not changing too much. You have to experience a very huge event, something shocking, let's say. But this again, then you adapt again. Again, you come to a new average, and you continue to be like a flat kind of life satisfaction. I don't know the participation. I don't remember how it's changing across time. So if you see an increase in frequency, not only from opera, as you said, for Filipinos, from cinema, if they will attend opera, but also if it has this migration policy or whatever is this, or the length of residence. Okay, this will change. But yeah, how much it changes, I don't remember. We can see this in the questionnaire. So how much dynamic is, how much variation there is in the end. Okay, they record every 2 years, but if your frequency is always the same, there's not so much improvement.
So maybe another interesting point could be, for instance, about the presence of endogeneity issue between the well-being and the possibility to engage in cultural activity. Because so person that are more people that are more willing to do different activity may be present, a higher well-being respect to others. So I don't know. I think people more open or more extrovert. No.
The personality traits you're saying, the big five.
Yes.
It's a big five. So
yes, the big five. Yeah.
It's kind of genetic, kind of, let's say. It's not changing, but it's driving your life satisfaction, how positive you are in life, and this drives your workplace, your behavior in workplace with other people. You're more social, you're more engagement, you're more. You have positivism generally.
Okay.
So the big fives is another thing.
Yes, the big five, but are fixed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the atmosphere. I have a last question, Eleftherios, that is very interesting to me. In general, or you have a project, an association which try to bring people, foreign people in the museum, so is working in this acculturation, or a lot of results are obtained by the children. The children go to school in the museum, and after that try to go with the parents. Did you had any possibility of studying this positive feedback of the second generation, the first? Given that you have first generation, second?
Yeah, for Chile, we don't have this information. That's the thing. We don't have the information.
Because when you have children, but you calculate the participation, cultural good, and you know if they have children of 12 years old and so on. And this could be a door through which you can acculturate parents, a chance. And
no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Because this is another channel that is very important, which is a feedback of the previous, of the second generation, larger participation, because since they are child, they are brought by the school to see the museum, to see the city and so on. And they can go there after with the parents or with the brother and with the mother, that in general, the mother are the one more reluctant to go out.
Yeah. No, we cannot do this one, because the thing is, the children, okay, you can see if they have children, but you don't know the children. You don't know the activities, what they are doing. That's the problem. Because all this service is always for adults. Okay, you have children, but they don't say your children what is doing. That's a bad thing.
Yes, because
So in the end, I
especially,
think the second generation adults take, not the children. It will be. I know what you're saying. So the child behavior. I mean, how can it drive and affect the parents?
yes. And there
Yeah.
are anyhow many things that affect the second generation.
Yeah.
That's very difficult to control. But this idea that, especially for women, or the more open society, the children are the channel to the culture of destination is important, especially with the
Even
African
yeah,
women.
even in politics can affect. In some cases, affect also the political behavior of parents. I mean, you can
Yeah.
vote this, or you can vote. I mean, climate change affects. I mean, if they have this beliefs, but no, unfortunately, no, there is no this information. But it would be interesting. Yeah, it would be interesting. This.
So Eleftherios, thank you very much. We hope to work together soon.
Thank
We
you.
don't know
Yeah, of course.
when, because we have a lot of things to share and to discuss, and
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have
Thank you so
different
much.
experience. You are an expert of Germany. We
No,
are
but as I said, yeah, to complete. I mean, I saw the side, demand side, the supply side. I don't know. I mean, the perception of the people, the ethnic group dominance in one region, in one district, the discrimination. I mean, prejudgment sometimes. So yeah, I mean, I went to music in England. I saw only white people. I didn't see African, I didn't see Indians, nothing. It was American. I mean, it was only white people. I said, why? Where are the Africans? Or
sure.
so I don't know.
Sure, but we move sometimes so away from our traditional subject where we feel at ease, and we go in this field where culture, where anthropology, and so on, are
Yeah.
stronger. And in fact, the last speaker is the director of the Anthropology Museum here in Torino, and so on. Exactly, to open the debate also to people with a completely different background. But we are much more at ease with people like you, with whom we can share our doubts, and we understand how complex is the question that we had on the agenda.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye, Roberto. Bye-bye,
I
Nico.
will send you the video
Yeah, and also
for approval.
papers. Yeah,
And
I
you
will
can
take also the
send me the
course.
slide of the presentation that I
Yeah,
can
and
use for the student on the
yeah, and also the Horizon course. I will check again the Horizon course for the.
Okay. Yes, sure.
Okay.
I will send it. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.